So I custom built a set of Callaway Jaws Raw wedges, and these are possibly the sleekest looking golf clubs I've ever put in my golf bag. But are they sleek enough to stay there? That's what we're gonna find out in today's video as I test the Callaway Jaws Raw wedges. So I have a 4-prong criteria when I test or review any golf club for my golf bag or yours. The look, the feel, the numbers, and the playability. First and foremost, these look like the coolest wedges I've ever seen. I had an opportunity to build this set completely custom for myself, so I saw the matte black, I saw the black shaft option, and I was like, let's friggin' do this. The shaft though is a shaft I've never used. It's the KBS Money Taper, S-Taper 130. I've used KBS Tour 130 for the last 4 or 5 years. So I took a little bit of a risk not knowing what this shaft would do for me in a wedge in building this out, but that was part of the fun. The look of these things, I mean, they look perfect. They look so good at address. Obviously the matte black head, there's no glare from the sun, there's none of that. They look amazing in the golf bag, behind the ball, everything about these things, they look awesome. So I've been able to use these in the garage and on a golf course. And so far the feel is perfect. The feel is everything you want from a top quality level wedge. The weight of everything feels great through the golf swing. At impact, it just feels really, really solid. It doesn't feel too grabby, too spinny, too rippy off the face. First time using this shaft, and the shaft feels pretty similar to a KBS Tour, so I'm not feeling any type of discrepancy or like it just feels too soft or it feels too kicky or it feels too weak. It feels predictable. They feel like great top of the line wedges. Okay, it's testing time, and just like the last wedge video I did, we're gonna do a yardage with each club. The yardage is gonna slightly change with the 52. I'm gonna go 120 yards with the 52, 105 with the 56, and 90-yard shot with the 60. I'm gonna find a 5-shot average, and we're gonna see what kind of numbers we get with this head and this shaft. So the 90-yard shot with the 60 degree, you're seeing the numbers here on the screen. Everything's pretty okay, pretty good, pretty standard. The spin is high though. The spin is high. 10,700, that's a very high spinning wedge. It had me concerned that the launch was gonna be too high and the peak height was too high, but it's okay. The launch is okay on this, the peak height is okay. It's just the spin is up, which requires more ball speed to get the yardage I needed to get out of it. So that was a little bit like, do I have to hit these a little bit harder to get the yardage I want out of them? So the spin, a little bit high on the 60 degree. Look at that. This is a brand new ball. These faces are just destroying it. With the 56, you're seeing the numbers here. Again, the testing was a little bit more difficult. It took me a few more shots to pull an average of 5 just because the spin and the launch were a little bit too high for my liking, so I wasn't getting the yardage out of the swing that typically gets that yardage. So it took me a little bit more, and then sometimes if I swung a little bit too hard, maybe the spin was too high, it was a little bit more inconsistent pulling these numbers. Over 10,000 RPM spin, just a little bit too much for a 56 degree. Launching just a wee bit too high, and the peak height's just a wee bit too high. So that kind of got me thinking like maybe this shaft isn't a good shaft option for me, or is it just brand new wedges spinning like crazy? The 52 degree, it felt really, really good. I was able to do exactly what I wanted with it when I was watching it on the launch monitor. Man, the spin was so low when I was hitting my yardage. 7,800 RPM, that's low spin for a gap wedge. So that had me kind of concerned. Would that just be falling out of the sky if I'm playing in windy conditions? So I would be like, all right, maybe just stop trying to kind of hit that like flighted draw with the wedge. Just keep that face a little more open, square. The spin will just jump up. Like I was experiencing spin of 11,000 RPM all the way down to 7,000 RPM. It was just super inconsistent. I wasn't too optimistic about taking these onto the golf course. So playability, how are these wedges out on the golf course? And the only way to do that is get out on the golf course and just hit as many short game shots as I can, test them around the greens, hit the full shots, hit the 3/4 shots, just see how these wedges perform, and if they perform up to snuff that I can keep them in the bag. Firm greens today, so it's a great little test, that helps. So we're gonna hit a bunch of shots, around these holes. And we're gonna see how these clubs play. So around the greens, these things are great. Bounce options I've never used, and grinds I've never used, but it like a duck to water. It was so easy opening these up, closing them down. Around the greens, these things were doing everything I wanted them to do. Bunker, easy reaction, turf, interaction, just great. Just great wedges. The playability around the greens was so good. So based on my testing in the garage and the numbers I was seeing, my worry on the golf course is that I'm not gonna be able to control the spin, that they're gonna get kind of balloony on me at times when I don't want them to. Or the flip side is they're gonna spin too much when it hits the green. So this is just about a full sand wedge. It's landing really well, actually. That didn't spin back like I thought. It's kind of high. Thin that one, long. Yeah, let's keep hitting some, but like visually it still kind of looks, peak height is looking pretty normal to what I'm used to seeing. The numbers kind of, I think, threw me off a little bit in the garage. Let's keep hitting some. Okay, so this is the shot I was talking about. I've got 104 yards into the wind, probably playing just under 110. So I've got a kind of 3/4 flight this 56 degree. Will it balloon up? Will the wind really eat up the spin and have it go whoosh and short or not? Dead on. A little higher than I would like, but that got through that wind just fine. Two for two. They landed literally the exact same yardage. That one went higher. How far did it go? Same yardage. Okay. Kind of three different, slightly different strikes, slightly different flights, but predictable. And I was expecting unpredictable. Okay, what better way to test playability than play a few holes at the yards? We have the beautiful 3-hole par 3 beer loop, all little wedges. So let's play them and see how we do. So this first hole here on the beer loop, 91 yards, little into the wind. That's kind of like, all right, I gotta hit a full lob wedge here, just under a full lob wedge. Let's see what happens, especially off a mat. Is this thing gonna balloon and spin like crazy and basically fall short in the bunker? It didn't, it was perfect. It hit the number perfectly, a couple paces past the hole. Really good look at birdie. Now this 113 yard shot was like, oh wow, couldn't ask for a more perfect yardage again, because I've got about 6 yards behind this hole where the backstop is, a little bit into the wind. It's basically like 100 to 122 yard shot, which is like perfect little flighted gap wedge. And I hit my number, bam, I hit my number, it hit this backstop, and I thought it was gonna go in. Oh, so close. Very, very great wedge, another close wedge. So 2 for 2. This final one, 117, downwind a little bit. I'm like, that's perfect. That's basically just a full sand wedge. But let's see, if the spin is way too high, this thing's gonna fall out of the sky and it's gonna go nowhere. A little bit higher than I want it to, but the spin was there. Traditionally, I've been kind of a low spin, high launch wedge player. That's something that I've worked on for so long. So when I see spin numbers, I think maybe it worries me. The numbers aren't perfect. The numbers aren't exactly what I would want, but the playability on these things, you know, I spent a good time out there on those par 3s, ripping around, hitting a bunch of wedges, a lot of shots around the greens. They were doing everything I wanted them to do. So that leads me to believe they deserve to go in the bag for the time being. And that's exactly what's gonna happen. I'm gonna put them in the bag. I need to play more golf with them and see if they continue to deliver when I need them to deliver. And if they don't, if the spin becomes an issue, then yes, I don't think this shaft is the best shaft for me when it comes to a wedge. But these wedges are performing how I want them to perform. At that $209 price tag though, is that worth it? Well, it's an expensive wedge. And I would advise, if you want to build a sexy, expensive wedge, make sure it's perfectly fit for you. Don't be guessing and hoping, because that's a huge investment and you can find a wedge for less price that performs better or just as well for you. So give these an A, but I would caveat it with, make sure if you're getting these wedges, you get the right grind, bounce, shaft, lie, loft, everything that makes this setup perfect for what you need in your golf bag with your wedge. Let me know down below, do you play the Callaway Jaws Raw wedges? What do you think of them? Do you think $209 is too much for a wedge? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Peace.